Okay.
Okay, I'd like to call to order the September 10th, 2020 meeting for the Traffic Safety Bikeways Pedestrian Committee. The first thing we'll do is the approval of the minutes from August 2020. Do we have any comments about them before we motion to approve it?
Having been absent last month, I will abstain from
Okay.
comment.
So,
I can move that we approve the minutes from last month.
okay, we have a motion, second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion second. Debbie, I have a question.
Uh-huh.
As long as we have a majority of the people here, we're fine? Okay.
You're fine. Yep.
Okay, so all in favor of approving the August 2020 meeting minutes as written, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
One abstention.
One abstention, okay. Great. Next, we have the appearance of interested citizens, and this is a time for people to talk about issues that are not on the agenda. And we do have one interested citizen.
Chair de Blasi and committee members, I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Chris Epley. I'm the city manager here in Keizer, and I've made a commitment this year to come visit all of the different committees that we have and just introduce myself and thank you for the work that you do for the city. So figured I'd stick around for a few minutes, watch how it goes, but I probably won't stay for the whole meeting, but I wanted to meet everybody and just say hello and thank you. So
Okay.
That's it. Nothing that I want to bring specifically to the committee.
Well, thank you. You picked an unusually quiet meeting tonight. Usually it's packed.
I recognize Chris even with a mask on.
Yeah.
I didn't. He was a surprise to me. Hello.
All right, well, thanks for coming. And I don't see anyone else, so I will move on from that. Okay, so next we have grant opportunities and information, and I will yield to Wayne.
Thank you, Chair de Blasi. I've been working on Oregon Community Paths program. It's a new grant program through ODOT, and we've got a link on the screen here. And if we can go ahead and play that, he'll introduce it a whole lot better than I can. Its purpose is to create a community path between communities. Could be across a regional trail.
Greetings, my name is Alan
Critical
Thompson.
corridor.
I'm the Oregon Community Paths Program Manager for the Oregon Department of Transportation, and I'm going to be talking to you today about the Community Paths Program.
Oh, is it?
What we'll be discussing is what is the Oregon Community Paths Program, how is it funded, who is eligible, what types of projects are eligible, and the schedule for applying and awarding projects. So first off, what is the Oregon Community Paths Program? The Oregon Community Paths Program, or OCP, is a new ODOT grant program that funds grants for project development, construction, reconstruction, major resurfacing, or other improvements of multi-use paths that improve access and safety for people walking and bicycling. The focus of the program is to support walking and biking on multi-use paths located primarily outside of the roadway's right-of-way, and projects must improve a critical link, regional path, or a path crossing of a roadway. How is it funded? There are two funding sources, one state and one federal. The state is funded through a bicycle excise tax, a tax on bicycles that are sold in the state of Oregon, and a portion of the vehicle privilege tax, that is car sales. And then there's a federal portion that is funded by the FHWA through the Transportation Alternatives Program. Because this is two separate programs and two different requirements, we are not mixing the funds. It will either be a state-funded grant or a federally funded grant. How much is available? $75,000 to $750,000 for project refinement for federal funding only, and $200,000 to $4 million for construction. That can be done with either state or federal dollars. State funds require a 30% match, and federal funds require a 10.27% match. Roughly, there's about $8.2 million in federal funding available through 2024, and about $11 million with state funding through 2024, but this is in flux. Who is eligible to apply for these grants? Local governments, school districts, tribal governments, transit districts, a special government body or other unit of local government, or a nonprofit organization or other private entity with documented support from one of the affected government bodies that we listed right there. By By and large, that is for the state. For the federal government, it is very similar. There are some restrictions, particularly as it relates to nonprofits, and they must be certified for federal dollars to be able to receive any grants under this program that are federal. What types of projects can I apply for? Obviously, project development, construction, reconstruction, major resurfacing for regional paths, portions of regional paths and critical links, and enhanced path crossing infrastructure across roadways. When we say project development, we also call it as project refinement. That is the first 30% of planning that does not relate to NEPA. So what it is to develop a project to the point where you can apply for a grant for construction at a later date. What is a regional path? A regional path means a multi-use path or trail, including bicycle trails and footpaths that meet the following criteria. It's a continuous path made up of one or more physically connected segments that is primarily physically separated from the roadway. It connects two or more communities, with each community no more than 15 miles apart, or traverses through a single large community with a path that is 10 miles or longer. And when we say communities, that can either be incorporated or unincorporated. It could mean one housing development in a larger area to another housing development because they might be considered as separate communities. There is no set definition in the statute, so we are looking at it as connecting distinct communities within a large community or distinct communities that are on their own in a more rural environment. And for a single large community with a path that is 10 miles or longer, we look at that as that if it's one large community and that 10-mile path can fit within that large community, then that meets that definition. It'll serve as a connection point for people commuting between communities or as part of an officially designated walking and bicycling route. Is it in a plan? Is it in an adopted plan? Safe Routes to School plan, active transportation plan. And the other one would be that it's endorsed by elected bodies along the path alignment. Again, that could also be as part of a plan, Safe Routes to School, active transportation, city plan, regional plan, etc. And there's no requirement to fund the entire path or trail in one project. It can be planned and built as segments as part of a much, much larger project. So what is a critical link? Critical link means multi-use path, trail, footpath, or a footpath in an area that meets one of the following criteria. It improves walking and bicycling access to high-need locations, such as transportation disadvantaged areas, schools, shopping or employment centers, medical services. It improves walking and bicycling access to areas where no connections exist, transportation options are limited, or significant safety concerns are addressed by the improvement. As an example of how the OCP complements other programs, Safe Routes to School, as it is practiced in Oregon, can only be funded within roadway right-of-ways. So if there is a potential path that goes from a housing development to a school, but it is not on a roadway right-of-way, then that would be ineligible for Safe Routes to School. But it would be eligible under this program. So it's a good option to look at other ideas for Safe Routes to School, as well as other programs. What phases can I apply for? Again, project refinement is an eligible phase. We sometimes call it the 30%. And where the first 30% of a project that looks at determining need, narrowing down the list of alternatives, researching potential environmental concerns that will inform NEPA, estimating development and construction costs, and documenting community input and support. It cannot trigger NEPA requirements, but can be used to inform NEPA in project development and construction. And the other type that you can apply for is project development and construction, which can include, preliminary and final design, right-of-way, environmental, and construction. Both state and federal can be used for the construction phase. Project refinement is only eligible for federal dollars. What is the schedule? ODOT will be accepting letters of interest between October 1st and October 31st, 2020. We'll review the LOIs for eligibility and inform applicants. Applicants who submit eligible LOIs may apply between November 1st and January 31st. And then we'll issue a notice of award in September 2021. If awarded, you will have 3 years to complete the project after the notice to proceed for federally funded projects, and you will have 5 years to complete the project after notice to proceed for state-funded projects. For more information, here is our website, www.oregon.gov/programs/pages/ocp.aspx. Or you can just email us at communitypaths, all one word, at odot.state.or.us. Or you can contact me personally at alan.l.thompson@odot.state.or.us. Or you can call at 503-986-7202. Thank you very much.
That's all of that. So that was the introduction to Oregon Community Paths, OCP. It's a regional path or a critical path connecting different parts of a community. Doesn't have to be related to schools, doesn't have to be related to parks. Could be two communities or neighborhoods. You try to connect them. Could be a neighborhood connected to a medical facility, or could be lots of different things. I haven't defined any possible paths yet. I haven't figured that part out yet. I was hoping we could do some thinking. There's another link on that that same webpage. They have frequently asked questions. There's about 24 frequently asked questions. I could review those if you want me to, or I could just pass this around. Eligible projects must be for a multi-use path, bicycle path or footpath. In some constrained areas, a path may need to cross or be constructed within the road right-of-way to provide continuous facility for people walking and biking. Separated bike lanes and other improvements within the road right-of-way are eligible for OCP if they are a segment or contribute to a larger path project. State funds can't be used for planning only grants. Federal funds can. Planning only projects can be funded federally. There's 28 frequently asked questions on, and there's a website if you want to read more. They have to be ADA compliant. Can we discuss our project with ODOT staff before we submit our letter of interest? Yes. So there's money out there, and I would like to see this committee come up with a recommendation of where this Oregon connectivity pathway can occur. And then we'll follow the procedure and we'll do our letter of interest and we'll fully define the thing. I did some other research today just to try to bring myself up to speed. I talked to, since the last meeting, I met with Bill Lawyer and I asked him what projects he currently has and things like that. I asked him how to access the STP, and he immediately corrected me. He said it's a TSP, Transportation System Plan. So I found the Transportation System Plan, and I looked at it, and there's 256 projects in the statewide transportation program. There's 17 projects in the STIP for Marion County. There's 7 projects in the STIP for Salem, but there were none for Keizer. I looked at another document, the Salem-Keizer Transportation Study Area, or SCATS. It's in the paperwork that I gave to the committee members. There's a link there to a 127-page document. I didn't print that. Trying to save a tree. There's a little bit about, there's members here that you have a handout of some of what I discovered today. They had some performance measures on this pathway, safety, infrastructure condition, congestion reduction, system reliability, freight movement, and economic vitality. Now, I think what I have in my handout here is not actually pertaining to this pathway. It's more in general, or for road, that's probably for roadways. So that's, you could probably just draw a line through that. I figured that out after I put it in the document. SCATS has funding for bike and pedestrian projects. There's currently 13 projects that build sidewalks, bike lanes, or enhance pedestrian crossings. I think 2 of those are in Keizer, Wheatland Road and then something on Verda Lane. And I don't know the details of either one of those projects. And then SCATS also has funding for road and bridge projects. There were 13 of those. And I think all of these were in Salem. So if we are interested in doing this, we want to have a letter of interest prepared by October 31st. So we would need to define a project and then write our letter and then follow the process from there.
And just to be clear, we have to get council approval before we get the letter of interest
I don't know that.
submitted. That's what I recall.
Mr. Chair DeBlasi, a couple of things that you want to do. If you have a project that you identify, say, this is what we'd like to do, you'd need to check with the department head for that particular thing first, and then they can prepare something to come to council. And then we can make the request in the letter. But so if there's something to do with parks, like there was a path to a park, then that would go through the Parks Board, for example. And if it's something to do with trails or streets, or that would need to go through our Public Works Director, Mr. Lawyer. And then they would bring that to council.
Okay.
I have a little bit more from Bill Lawyer. I had a meeting with him. I asked him if he's, is there a list of future projects? And he referred me to the Parks Master Plan and to the Transportation System Plan. I asked him what current projects he has in his radar that are related to traffic. And he said resurfacing Verda, and then there was a date there, 2023. Debbie, I've got this part if you want it. I can give you a handout. And there's another current project, a Wheatland Road multimodal study. Don't know what that means yet, but a future project would be Windsor Island south of Lock Haven. And he mentioned standard separated sidewalks. He also mentioned if you have curbs, then you have to think of drainage also. But you can have a sidewalk without curbs if it's separated from the road. Okay. So a sidewalk or a pathway separated from the road would be probably less expensive. Mr. Lawyer reported that the gas tax monies are down because people aren't driving as much. That's where a lot of the funding for traffic grants come from, is the gas tax. And he suggested if we want to do a project that we accomplish the goal in a reasonable manner. That's quoting him.
Nice and vague. So I have a question about what we were just saw and what you were saying, and maybe I misheard it there. The projects have to connect to communities or be within a community that's a large enough community that you could have a long enough distance?
Could be 2 neighborhoods.
Oh, so it can be 2 neighborhoods, okay.
Okay. And if it was a larger community, it could be 2 communities connected by a 10-mile pathway. It could be a critical pathway. They use that word.
Yeah.
Okay, and one other thing I learned is this type of project is going to be primarily not in the right-of-way of the road.
Right.
So the road, and I need a little clarification on this, maybe you guys can help me on it. Is the right-of-way of a road, is it just the road, or is it the entire corridor of that road?
The entire corridor. I think in some spots on River Road, the right-of-way is the whole road width. But then you get to points where you've got right-of-way, like in a residential area, you see that median between the road and the sidewalk. It's part of the right-of-way. It's part of the city-owned property.
So you're thinking the entire corridor
Yeah,
would be considered right-of-way.
yeah.
So that would mean if we had a project, it would probably not be along an existing road.
Unless there's enough room,
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
And would we ask Public Works if we found a couple places to do the research if there was enough room without the road included? That makes sense.
I'll be happy to check with Bill Lawyer again and fully clarify the word right-of-way and ask that question, you know. But I know this is all new, and we probably don't have any project ideas right now. Put your thinking caps on and see if we could come up with a project that we could submit. The money's, a lot of money available. I think it was, I don't remember, 75,000 for the planning part and up to 750,000 for the construction part from the feds per project. So let's try to get some of that money.
Well, so if we back step things, we have October 1st, you said?
31st is when the letter.
Well, but between October 1st and 31st is the letter of interest
Yes,
application
yes.
or submittal period. So let's just assume we want a completion date by middle of October. So we're looking at 30 days to come up with a spot, get the approval from any particular department and the council, and then get the letter written. So sounds to me like we'll have to do another meeting outside of the general meeting.
Sign me up.
Okay. But before that, if you could get from Bill, if it's possible to do it fast enough to figure out where there's land that's even possible. And I have another question. Does this have to be asphalt?
It can be asphalt or concrete would be preferred. Has to be ADA approved. If a dirt path or soft path, if someone asked that question, what are the requirements for a soft surface path? Path surfaces must be firm and stable. Concrete and asphalt are the most common and durable form for firm and stable construction. Some natural surfaces can be compacted so that they are firm and stable, but these surfaces can degrade and become inaccessible without regular maintenance. So it doesn't have to be asphalt or concrete, but that's probably recommended.
Well, I'm thinking of a boardwalk style, which even non-wood manufacturing still has a maintenance higher probably than an asphalt concrete would have. But I can think of one spot that potentially could be a connector for more of a school connector than a commercial or park connector, but it would be through a natural area that would have to have
Like a raised
boardwalk, yeah.
Does it connect neighborhoods?
It connects to the Weddell, Claggett schools and the neighborhoods to the north.
It's Weddell Elementary and Claggett Creek Middle School.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, so like I said, that would have to be a boardwalk.
Because it goes through a nature area.
Yeah. I don't know if there's any other ones that people can think of that would be out of the normal.
So probably not on a road, so through a nature area could be a good idea. Or just however we can connect the city. If the road is wide enough for a separated multi-use path, separated from the road, not in the right-of-way of the road, that could be something also.
So if you don't have the curb and it's separated, I'm assuming it'd be some type of gravel strip?
I don't know.
Okay, well, we can talk after the meeting about setting up another subcommittee meeting again. But if you could, I suppose, get a hold of Bill within the next 7 days.
Okay, sure.
That'd be good. Sure.
You've got a question?
Oh, yes, sir.
Actually, just a comment to maybe steer you in one direction. Along River Road, south of Shamawa, the roadway actually takes up the entire right-of-way. So the sidewalks are actually on easements outside of the rights-of-way in that area. And the planning effort the city just went through to identify the corridor along River Road identifies a multi-use path on one side of the street or the other, which would be a 10-foot path or 11-foot path to accommodate bike and ped traffic. It's a major impediment for us because it's a massive project to do that and would require land acquisition and reconfiguration of properties, et cetera. It's just a thought. This could at least help with the planning of that kind of a project, but it may consume, some sort of an upper end of what I saw the project limits were. So,
Right.
and may take longer to accomplish than the timelines, but it's just something to think about. So River Road, south of Shamawa, the roadway, the back of curb on each side is the right-of-way. So a path could be on either side of River Road if done creatively.
Do you know, are the easements on both sides or are they? Okay.
Both sides, yeah. The sidewalks on both sides are in easements.
Okay.
So, and then I'm going to leave, so
All
thank
right,
you very
thank
much.
you.
Thank you for the idea.
Yeah.
I think, do you remember when Nate brought that into the committee? So since Nate brought it out, I would suggest that the person that you need to talk to maybe is Shane.
Yeah.
Because he's in community development.
Right. And I do remember that talk about the path. I just wasn't sure if the city wanted to keep it as a separate thing because it was kind of its own little thing.
Can I ask a clarifying question? So if we have to bring the letter of interest to the city council, do we have to meet here with us first again before we go to them?
I would suggest that, I had the calendar out, okay, so we've got September 21st is the next council meeting, then they have another one on October 5th, and another one on the 19th. If you talk to either Shane or Bill and got kind of an okay, they, usually what's traffic safety has done is they've gone to council. It hasn't gone through staff. They go to council and ask about it, and then council directs staff to continue on with it. So you could do it either way. Throw out the ideas, ask them what they would think. What you need to make sure is that your idea is pretty well concrete, pretty well, not half-baked. But it is also just a letter of interest that you're submitting, and that's, the grant people do that on purpose so that you don't go to a lot of work to fill out all the grant stuff and then find out that it didn't qualify anyway. So you come up with a general idea of what you want to do, submit that letter, but you have to get council permission to submit the letter, and the mayor would sign the letter. summer. So you would have to work around those council meetings
Right.
to, come up to her and get the okay. Council would need to okay her signing it, that sort of thing. So that kind of give you an idea?
Okay, but we don't have to meet back here with this committee.
Well, you don't if you come up with something before then, but you do meet again on the 8th of October. So,
Right, but I feel, okay, personally for me, I feel like I'd like to see us go to council on the 5th, because if they tell us to go back and do homework, we have until the 19th to come back to them, give them something else to approve so that we make the 31st date.
Yeah, I agree.
I like that idea.
Okay.
Councilor Kohler?
Chair de Blasi, one of the reasons that I suggested that you check with the department head on that is that they then could line things up and say, yes, this looks like a good program, something we should be able to push forward. And then when you got to council, it would be able to go through there a lot easier than if you just came to council and said, this is a proposal to have, okay, we'll have the department head talk about it with you. That could slow it down. That's why I suggested just go ahead and talk to them first.
No, that's a
like
great
that.
suggestion. So assuming we're trying for October 5th, and we'd want to be talking to Bill or Shane before that and get their input and support, then,
So I feel like 2 weeks from today, if we can get those talks in to Bill or Shane, and Shane, I should say, and then that puts us at a date of, hold on. That puts us right around September 24th, and that gives us another almost week and a half before the next meeting on October 5th. So we could do some after this meeting, we can put 2 dates on the calendar. I'd like to be involved. I think I already just put myself Okay.
I don't know, Stephen, you were originally part of the sidewalk gap. I don't know if you wanted to be on this.
I mean, I can be. I don't feel like I have really enough of a handle on this particular project to contribute a great deal, but I'm happy to participate in any way anybody thinks I might be.
We're limited to how many?
You can't have a quorum, so
Right.
you have 7 on your committee, so you have to keep it down to 3.
3, yeah. Okay. Which, if Hirsch isn't able, I guess we could bounce it off of Hirsch.
If you wanted to have more people, you could have an additional meeting. And we just have to be noticed, and you'd have to have minutes and that sort of thing.
How far ahead does the notice have to be?
Just 24 hours.
Oh, okay. Well, I can ask Hirsch if he wants to, because we were going to meet together, and Hirsch, because of the fires, wasn't able to. So if he wants to stay on, that's fine. If not, then I can.
Yeah, let me know.
Okay.
So Michael, are you currently helping with safe routes or the sidewalk connectivity, sidewalk gap analysis?
No, I just know Stephen was, and so I thought he might, because, it's all kind of in the same pot of soup here. Yes, Councilor Kohler?
Chair de Blasi, one of the things that may be considered is some of the things you've already looked at with the sidewalk improvement things. There may be something in there that you can look at and say, you know what, I think we can make that fit into here. So I think it's worth reviewing that at minimum.
Yeah, the one thing I know I said it's all one pot of soup, but the one thing, maybe, I'm wrong, I could be wrong, but with sidewalks, we have to meet X standard versus these multi-use paths, which can be a broader type of structure.
And then, in fact, they have to be multi-use paths.
Right. And I know we've got the thing in front of Cummings, which is a multi-use path. I don't know if how
Can't
that
just be
fits under our
pedestrian.
sidewalk umbrella, if you will.
Where does the multi-use path go? Where does that terminate when it comes up the parkway? The one that goes back behind the Little League fields?
Oh, so
It goes to Keizer Station, and it goes the other direction, south to Alder.
So is there something off of that that we could do, or maybe go from that path to another area close to it, or?
So from the Salem Parkway to a neighborhood, or to medical
right.
facilities, or to somewhere?
Because we don't have to reinvent the whole wheel here. We could just put a new spoke on it.
Yeah, for sure. We can talk more about that. I'm just trying to think, but I don't want to eat up meeting just thinking. Okay, well, so we've got some work to do, and we will. So, Debbie, does that mean at that October 8th meeting, we have to have approval by the whole committee to say this is what we're presenting to the council for?
That would probably be a good idea, yes.
Okay. Okay.
But like I said, there are, and we can, if nobody is dead set on Thursday, there are a few days that we have this room and me available. So, and especially because September has, kind of has 5 weeks in it, so we have some extra days there.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, I guess we'll probably know better in a week if we need to throw in another meeting.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, is there any other information about grant opportunities to share? I don't know, if, Jamie, if you wanted to mention about the safe routes at all, or if you want to just wait till later.
I can wait till.
Okay. All right. Okay, so, and it seems like Wayne knocked his part out for project reports. So I'll move to Stephen.
I don't have anything new to report.
Hirsch isn't able to be here tonight, although I have heard the bike racks are up at the school. And I can't remember how many there are, but I heard they are up.
At McNary?
Yeah, so I'm sorry, at McNary, yeah. Okay, so for me, NACDO discussion, I don't have much, although NACDO has a document they've created. Let me see if I can find the title. It's again one of those guidance documents on street design. It's called Designing Streets for Kids or something along those lines, and it basically lays out the type of streets depending on context, what you need to have a street that's safe for kids, and of course, if it's safe for kids, it's safe for everyone else. So I would suggest, if you guys want to, I can send you the link to that if you want to see it, and just thumb through it.
Sure.
Yeah, okay. And I would also, in that same vein, the ODOT has a book, many books, but one in particular that I recently saw. It's called, apologize for this, The Blueprint for Urban Design, and it talks about the different ways we can design our streets in the urban environment. And one of the things it talks about is focusing on the land use context, but it does mention that we have the opportunity to be creative and test things out. You have to get state approval for it, but it gives us some flexibility. While we have all these guides and rules by the state and the city and the feds. Sounds like they're trying to encourage, at least on small scale, some type of innovation that bottom up and just try and play with things and not feel that we can't do it because we're hampered by rules or a liability concern. So again, it has to be something that would be, of course, approved on a local level and then get state approval to approve it too. I think that's it for now on that. So, Councilor Kohler?
Chair de Blasi, one question, I guess I've been wondering for quite a while, but I think I'll just go ahead and ask it. It's a quiet meeting, comparatively speaking. NACTO standards are developed by who?
So it's the National Association of City Transportation Officials. So AASHTO is developed by the feds because it's the state, or the highway transportation, and it includes state highway officials who've participated in it. But it's standards that were developed, or guidelines that were developed for mostly highway roads, but they were, a lot of cities have sort of, not necessarily incorporated them, but tried to follow those standards. Because on the face of it, they're for safety, of course. But then it was decided that these city transportation officials got together and said, these AASHTO standards are great for rural and urban highways, but when you're dealing with urban streets and roads, there's different contexts, different thoughts we should be thinking about.
And does Oregon have an accepted set of standards at this point that they're using?
So we follow the guidelines of AASHTO and then some other federal guidelines, but other cities in Oregon have not necessarily incorporated into their rules, but have tried to incorporate some of those guidelines from the NACTO as well.
And if there was a change in any of this, who would have to approve it?
Oh, that would have to be probably a combination of the state highway or road, ODOT, I guess, and then the local government.
Okay, so I'm just trying to understand this in my mind. We seem to spend quite a bit of time talking about some of the different standards that we really don't have much ability to change, do we?
Well, like I said, we are able to petition to the state. We would like to do this, and they don't have to agree to it, but if they do, then that gives us the flexibility.
When you say we would have to, who do you mean?
The city officials would have to
And
go through the petitioning process and
And
say,
as you've talked to different city officials, what has been your response or your feeling of their acceptance of some of these different things?
I think it's really depending on the city. You know, I think with a place like Portland, even Eugene, they have like Portland's got its own Bureau of Transportation, so they've got a strong agency that does a lot of the research for them and then does a lot of the building and design for them. So they're able to put a strong case in front of ODOT and the state and say, hey, look, we want to do this because we've done all this back information. A city like Keizer, certainly not having that bench of people, has to ride those coattails and say, look, you've allowed this in Eugene, and we'd like to try this.
I guess part of the reason I ask is when I've asked the planning division or in the county and in the city about the standards, I have not found a lot of interest in spending much time with making a change. And so I'm wondering if they're not willing to spend a whole bunch of time on it, should we be spending a bunch of time on it? I guess that's my question.
And it's a valid point because, you know, they are, at least at this level, the final arbiter of whether we go forward with it. So that's incumbent upon us then to make the argument to them. You know, personally, I think it's important because city streets are, you know, you have a different environment where cars and people are interacting compared to the highways where you're designed for higher speed, higher traffic, and you're designing it to have safety for the driver. Because when we see someone on a bicycle on the highway, you know, it's unexpected.
So can we develop one of these paths between here and Newburgh?
Well, that's too far, isn't it?
From here to where?
Newburgh, it's 25 miles.
Right. Well, I mean, there's the path that they have down by Monmouth, then there's by Corvallis.
Right.
There's a proposal for one over in Yamhill County that I know the farmers aren't in favor of, but.
But I guess here again, part of the argument is that I'm trying to understand. If we wanted to put a path between Keizer and Newburgh, we would have two different counties to deal with, plus, and we really don't have a lot of say about that. So I guess I'm just trying to figure out in my mind, there's some things that we just don't have much control over. Sometimes I feel like we spend time on things quite a bit of time on things that we really don't have any say-so on. And so would it be better to identify some things that we do have some say on and push forward on those?
Sure. And now the NACDO thing, that would be a Keizer specific thing. That wouldn't be, unless Salem decided they wanted to do it too, it wouldn't extend beyond our boundary. So basically what we would do is we would say in Keizer, on these types, say arterials, we will have this design, or at intersections of this capacity, we will have this design. It wouldn't be a connecting path sort of thing. It's really just a street design guideline within the city. Wayne, yeah.
So with the purpose of NACTO to make it more bike pedestrian friendly?
It makes it more bike and pedestrian friendly, but it also is, a lot of it is traffic calming infrastructure.
And what was the other standard?
The AASHTO?
AASHTO.
Yeah, the AASHTO, I think is what it is.
Because
And that's more for traffic,
We've
high-speed
had discussions
traffic.
about pedestrian islands and a lot of those kind of things. And when we push those forward, Public Works and Police and Fire have said, excuse me, that's what we use to get around traffic in an emergency, and we don't want those.
Right, and I understand that, there's that inertia that things like this have to fight, but, as I see it, if Portland Fire Police can get through when they do all these things, or even, Manhattan Fire and Police can get through these sorts of things, because NACDO was one of the people behind it, was at the time a city transportation head from New York. So if it can happen there, I have a hard time seeing it can't happen in Keizer. So, it's a lot, it's education is really what it comes down to. And we talk, I remember the fire department didn't want the Safeway gas station, but the city was, open to it at first, so.
Well, it was approved.
Right, so.
It was approved, but they decided not to build it apparently.
Right, so, not to say that we shouldn't listen to the fire department, but it becomes an education thing. It's like, and we work with them and see where the compromise can be.
Okay, thank you for
Did you
trying
have
to help
something, Jamie?
educate me.
Did I? No,
Oh,
this
okay.
conversation.
Okay, well then,
I guess it will be me still.
yeah, we'll bump over to you.
Okay, Safe Routes to School grant. So, Chair de Blasi. De Blasi. Okay, thank you. And I met right before this meeting to try to take our spreadsheet that we came up with 2 meetings ago and really hone in on what could we do to present to council, city council, areas that we would like to submit for a grant. And I might have blew it up a little bit right towards the end because I decided to ask the question of, we have an area of top priorities and then what's in the TSP. And being that I don't know if we have if we have to do a match for Safe Schools, I have to do a little bit of background on this. So I was going to contact McCrae that came in to speak with us and see if there is any match for ours. I think the match was on the ODOT one because he just showed us that one up there. So I think we have just a couple too many grants that we're looking at that I might be blending a little bit of the information that I'm getting.
We looked at Safe Routes to School a couple of years ago. We put forward two grant proposals. Neither one of them was approved at that time. But there was a matching requirement.
There was.
And the Safe Routes to School is going to be more of a construction type project.
I don't know if I understand construction.
Infrastructure instead of training and education.
Okay.
There's two different kinds
Yeah.
usually. There were two grants, that's what Wayne is saying, they applied for two different ones. One was training and education, right? And the other one was for the actual.
They were both infrastructure.
Oh, they were?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, then it was later, there was one that was for the training.
Do we know about when that was, or is there a way to look at those two grants that we submitted?
Sure there is. I have some data.
Do you remember what the match was?
25%, but don't quote me on that. I don't remember.
Okay.
Or it might have been 50%. I don't.
So when we met, I believe that my thought process just changed a bit, and that if we have money that we were already putting towards the top priority, maybe that's the area that we should actually be honing in on because there's money already allocated to that in the budget. So I'm going to take the three that we came up with and then actually do another three that might possibly have money already in the budget. Do we have a plan? I think that's maybe a Public Works question.
Councilor Hull?
Chair de Blasio and Mrs. Davis, the easiest answer to that is probably to check with Mr. Sangster, since he was very heavily involved in putting those grants together. And then he could tell you exactly what was going on with them and where he thinks maybe we can do some improvements. I do know that if we were able to connect a park with any of those Safe Routes to School, then it's easier for us to allocate funds for that because we have a bigger budget there with discretionary funds.
Okay.
Now, some of the other ones we can do, we have to be more creative in where we come up with the funds.
Okay.
So
What
that's a
was
great
the name
question.
again? That the person you said to connect with?
From the committee.
Hirsch. Okay.
Hirsch Sangster.
Do we know, in that little table we had of the higher priority, medium priority, is there any money associated with those? Yeah, do you know?
I would have to review those again.
Okay.
You probably have to check with Bill on those. You have the table though, and he's seen them too because he's included in all the emails.
Yeah.
But you could see, yeah, he'd be able to tell you right off. Be a lot easier than Dan trying to find it buried.
I would just go talk to
Bill
Bill
knows it
and
by
Bill.
heart.
Yeah, okay,
But Mr. Sangster will know more details about the ones that we filed prior 2 years ago.
yeah.
And because he worked very closely with the grant writers and putting all that together.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah, from there, I think we'll have another meeting, and I think this will form what we'll probably be presenting by early 2021 is what I'm thinking, so that we can get into the 2020 to 2022 grant. So plenty of time for me, maybe not for you. Wait.
do we know, I know there's all this talk about budgets, and there's a talk about the gas tax. Has there been have you heard anything about the Safe Routes to School funds?
I don't know.
No, but I'll definitely ask McCrae when I reach out. I mean, when we talk about gas tax, I would think that we were talking about next year's disbursement, not this year's disbursement. So And it probably wasn't accounted for in the budget to lose any, okay. All right, just
Yeah.
thinking out loud.
Okay.
I think for the most part, the grants are for long-term planning type things. And some of the things we're going, oh, there's this grant, we've got this much time to get to it. And we may be successful on those if there's still money left over in those programs. But it's probably better for us to be looking longer down the road.
I'm
Right.
getting that understanding now.
One of the most frustrating things for me when I became a city councilor is, okay, well, let's get this done then. It's like, well, we have to do this study. It's like, wow, you got, 2 years down the road, we'll get this project done that in business, I'm used to getting done in a few months instead of a few
Yeah.
years. And so that's been one of my frustrations, just seeing the speed of government. And sometimes that's a really good thing, and sometimes it's just really frustrating.
Yeah, I hear you.
It can be glacial.
And then you throw pandemics in there.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I'll definitely reach out. Sounds like most likely in about 2 weeks we're going to meet, so I'll make that a priority to at least reach out with an email to McRae and see if I can find out if there's still funds that will be granted for the next term or whatever I don't know what you want to call it. Cycle?
It's
Cycle?
a biennial.
Biannual.
Biennial.
Biannual
Okay.
cycle. And I guess that means 3 to 5 years for me here, huh?
That's right, you're in for it now.
Keep our volunteers on our committee.
I guess.
Leave the carrot
I
out
have
there.
to see it through
for you.
rotation.
Okay, well, then we'll move on to committee member input. Anything, Stephen? No. Jamie, anything outside of what we've talked about?
No.
Okay. You want to?
I don't have anything else.
Okay. This was something a webinar I sat in on. It was for Tree City, USA. But I've mentioned in the past how, we've all been driving down streets, especially main streets, certain times of year when you can see the sun and it's blinding, and if there were some trees there. And so there's just some steps that I would probably need to talk to Parks, maybe Public Works too, about what we have already on the books to see if we would want to then apply for this and then try and get more trees.
So trees and versus the streets, they do that too. They do the trees too.
Ooh, Public Works?
Public Works.
I would assume in
Or maybe.
state or city-owned property, unless the parks, well, Public Works does
I didn't hear
parks
the
management,
question.
right?
I was wondering if Public Works takes care of the trees as well too, or is that part of the parks, or?
Public Works Bill Lawyer is over both
Oh,
parks and
then that's where we get our answer.
Yeah.
Public Works.
Most of the trees, though, that are on public right-of-ways are the responsibility of the property owners adjacent to those.
We have the streets, the trees in the middle of streets and on the city property, we have a agency or a company that takes care of them. We pay them.
Yeah. But as
But
to.
we have several places, I can think of a couple in Chemawa where the trees have died.
Yeah.
So it would be great if we could find some kind of grant that we could get replacement trees for those.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'll talk to, Bill's gonna not want to talk to us ever again. Harass him.
Maybe.
So, but, like I said, it was just checking it out just to see what that Tree City thing is and if we are even able to do it at this point, but.
It was a program they had to help the cities
Well,
buy trees?
so you get the designation through Tree City,
Oh.
but you have to have a plan that, let's see what you have to have. First of all, of course, as with everything, the mayor has to approve to be part of it, but you have to have a tree board, or the city manager could be in that position. You have to show documentation of public ordinance, tree ordinance. if we have a community forestry program, volunteer time. Right, so there's a lot of things that I was like, I don't know if we even have that. So that's where I'm gonna bend Bill's ear.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
It could be one of those things, so like, the points of interest wanted to have heritage trees. That's a definite program. And it's got a whole lot of stuff like this that you have to have in order to really designate it as a heritage tree. So we kind of went around it. We have a brochure of trees of history. So may not be able to get an actual designation as a tree city, but maybe we can be called the city of trees or something like that.
right. And then use that to get grant money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, I would move on from that then, if nothing else. So it looks like 7 and 8, Mike's not here, and Sergeant Leday is not here. So lead you back to Dan. Councilor Kohler?
Thank you, Chair de Blasi. I feel like I've spent a lot of time talking tonight,
Yeah.
which usually I try not to do. I guess I have to say just a couple of things about all the fires and such that we've been involved in. I've seen lots and lots of people spend lots of time, energy, and money to help people. And it's really been refreshing to watch people of all races, all nationalities, all creeds come together for a single purpose, rather than I'm this, I'm that, and kind of button heads. It's just been really, really refreshing to see. And I guess it just goes to as a testament that we are one people and we do love our neighbors and we'll do our best. I mean, that's what Keizer does. We do our best to help each other. So my kudos, to all those people that have been involved in doing so many things for our neighbors. And we hope that the fires stay there and not here, because then it would be a little different thing, but we will still do our best to love our neighbors. But thank you. That's all I have tonight.
All right, thanks. Okay, well, looks like our next meeting is October 8th, unless something changes and we have a sooner one. And other than that, I think I will call this meeting to close.